everyone, my name is Sean, and in today's video we're taking another look at Gravekeepers. This is a different way to kind of play them that I was experimenting with, and I thought I would show it to you because I think it could be a little bit better than playing Gravekeepers as a stun deck, because it can be a little more consistent and easier to use than, say, relying on drawing into floodgates. So the starters for this deck are very similar to the deck that we posted yesterday, but here they are in case this is the first time you're seeing the deck. And that we have 3 copies of Magician's Souls. This card is really good because you can send your level 6 Gravekeepers down or higher to the graveyard and then revive them later on. Also gives you a little bit of extra draw power. Then we have 3 copies of Gravekeepers Commandant that you discard this card or use Terraforming to search out your field spell, Necrovalley. And then we have Foolish Burial to send our monsters to the graveyard, because we're going to use a lot of revival spells for this deck. And then we also have 3 copies of Instant Fusion. And this is another extender really, a way to put a Dark Spellcaster on the field. And then we have Necrovalley as well that can search out our Gravekeeper cards. Now the way we're playing this deck differently is by not focusing on the fact that these are Gravekeepers, but that these are mostly Dark Spellcaster type monsters. And if you kind of look at it from that point of view, there's a lot of different cards you can play outside of the archetype that can actually support this deck while also kind of clashing with what the deck wants to do. For example, you could play things like Secret Village on the Spellcasters. Although, yeah, we already have a good spell card in the form of the Necrovalley, Necrovalley isn't always useful, and so playing something like Secret Village can be good because then you can negate your opponent's spell cards, and that could shut them down quite easily. But then you can also do things like Magician's Left Hand. Where is it? Somewhere further down. Things like Magician's Left Hand. Sorry, I apologize. It's somewhere. There it is. There's Right Hand and Left Hand. You can do things like that because you're going to be playing a lot of spellcasters. And so there's a lot of good options out there for a Dark Spellcaster deck, because obviously Dark Magician gets loads and loads of love and support from Konami. But by focusing on that, we're going to be playing cards a lot like Dark Magic Fail. This card says you pay 1000 life points and special summon 1 Dark Spellcaster type monster from your hand or your graveyard. And then we're going to be playing 3 copies of Magician's Restage. This card allows you to target a level 3 or lower Spellcaster type monster in your graveyard and special summon it. This can summon back Magician's Souls, and that's really good because you can play Restage, bring back Souls, use Souls Effect, and then get rid of the Restage to draw a card from your deck. But it also works really well for other level 3 or lower monsters like Gravekeepers Recruiter. Gravekeepers Recruiter is really good as well, and also Gravekeepers Headman as well works really well with these cards here. Now, what I want to point out about Gravekeepers Recruiter, Dark Magic Veil, and Magician's Restage is all of these are not once per turn, and so you can abuse these cards and they will not clash with each other at all. So you can repeatedly summon Gravekeepers Recruiter, send it to the graveyard for a link summon or any other kind of play you want to do, and you will still get its effect as long as you send it from the field to the graveyard. So it's really good. Headman also works. Headman isn't a card that says if this card is normal summon, it only says if this card is summoned. So you can revive it from the graveyard, trigger its effect, and then it will summon another Gravekeeper monster from your graveyard, and then you can use that to extend even further. I'm playing 1 copy of Gravekeeper Spiritualist. I don't actually like it. I'm going to actually take it out. I have it in the deck video that we're doing, but I don't like that card at all. In fact, I would rather have 1 copy of Gravekeeper Spy, or maybe another copy of Headman actually, because that card is a lot more consistent and better for us. And then we're playing Monster Reborn. And so with this lineup here, we've got 12 extenders along with 14 starters. That is the perfect sweet spot for a 90% chance of drawing at least 1 starter, and I think it's like a 60% chance of drawing 1 starter and 1 extender. So that works really well. For our instant fusion targets, I just want to point out as well that these are all Dark Spellcaster monsters, so this is further support. Thousand Eyes and Millennium Eyes are level 1 monsters, which means they can be summoned with Veil and Magician's Restage, and Winda is also going to be used here, and this is a card that says each player can only special summon monsters once per turn while this card is face up on the field. So what we are effectively doing here is, rather than relying on trap cards like Lose 1 Turn, Solemn Judgment and so on to provide our defensive options, we're going to use our extra deck to kind of do that for us, and having a card like Shaddoll Winda on the field is going to be really good for the Gravekeeper archetype to use, because it will allow you to build your board then stun your opponent. For our defensive options, we're playing a lot of cards in the main deck still. We have 4 cards here, and so we're going to go with 14 cards, and so we're going to go with, I'm going to take out this card here, So we're going to go with, actually I'm going to put in one more card, but I'll put it in later. Our main deck options are Gravekeeper Shaman. This is the best level 6 target in my opinion for Magician's Souls, because it's the only level 6 or higher Gravekeeper monster that when it comes to the field still has its effect intact, whereas Visionary is not bad, but he's just like a beat stick really. And then you also have Oracle, and Oracle has to be tribute summoned to use his effect, so it doesn't really do too much. Even though they're stronger than Shaman, she can protect your field from your Necrovalley from being destroyed, and she can negate all monster effects that activate in the graveyard as well. So she works really, really well. She's a nice little defensive option, and she's level 6, so that works really, really nicely. Then we have 3 copies of Necrovalley, but I'm also going to add in 1 copy of Secret Village, just because I think it will be really nice in this deck. So if we go down to S, and it will be a little bit further down. There are so many field spells in this game. Oh, I've gone past it. It is just about... I'm blind. I know it's there. There it is. So we're going to play Secret Village as well as a defensive option to turn off all spell cards. But then we're playing a lot of hand traps. It's kind of like a necessary evil. I couldn't decide really what to put here. You don't have to play lots of hand traps. These could be removal cards. These could be things like Cosmic Cyclone. It is good to have a balanced roster in my opinion, because there are so many variety in decks, but these are just cards that work against kind of all decks right now, so I'm kind of going with this lineup here. But it helps your Gravekeepers quite a lot, because you're not putting cards on the field where is your opponent's going to try and destroy your spells and trap cards because you're playing Necrovalley. And then for removal options, we're really just relying on our main deck here. That might not be the best of ideas. You might want to take some hand traps out and put things like Cosmic Cyclone in the main deck, and if you want to do that, all the power to you, go for it. But I'm relying on the main deck here, the extra deck here to do this, and so we're playing Link Karibo to send a level 1 to the graveyard, IP Masquerena lets us do Link Summons on our opponent's turn, Nightmare Package, doing 1 Cerberus to destroy monsters, Double Phoenix. I think I really like Double Phoenix in Link Evolution format right now. I think having just 1 isn't enough. I think you need 2 just to have that access to more spell and trap card removal. Project Anaconda, because we're playing Instant Fusion, you can use its effect to send Instant Fusion to the graveyard and then get out things like Shaddoll Winda. We have Nightmare Unicorn, also to shuffle in our cards. And then we're also playing Selene, Queen of the Master Magicians. This is a fantastic spellcaster support card, and it gets spell card counters equal to the number of spells in both players' graveyards and on the field. And then you can remove 3 counters to summon a spellcaster monster from your hand or the graveyard in defensive position during either player's turn. This is really, really good for your cards. You can use it to say summon a Headman, and then you get a Headman when this effect will trigger, and you get more resources through that. You can do Recruiter, or you can even summon things like Millennium Eyes, Thousand Eyes, and Winda using her effect. And even if you have Necrovalley on the field, you can still summon cards out your hand. And you're going to have a lot of cards in your hand because Recruiter is going to get you lots of cards to your hand. And this Spiritualist again, she needs to go, and then we're going to have a Secret Village in. We might actually want more Gravekeepers than just this much. It might be better to have that, so I'm actually going to put Spy rather than a Secret Village. So up to you. Put a Secret Village, put Spy in. It might be better to take out Terraforming, but that's a starter card, so up to you. Feel free to mess around with this build how you want to. And then for the rest of the extra deck here, we have cards that Selene can easily make, because Selene is a Link 3, and then the card you're going to summon it will be a 1, so we can make Link 4s quite easily. But then I also want cards that IP Masquerena can summon as well. So if there's only IP Masquerena and 1 monster, you can make Selene, or you can make Nightmare Unicorn during your opponent's turn. Or if there's 2 monsters in your field and IP Masquerena, you can make Topologic Bomber Dragon, a card which can destroy all monsters in the field once you attack. Kind of like Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. Zero Boros to banish all cards in the field. This doesn't really hurt you too much because you don't really need to have Necrovalley on the field, and you're only going to use this card in a situation where Necrovalley isn't doing enough to hinder your opponent. And then I'm doing 1 copy of Unchained Abomination. This is a card that just can keep destroying cards on the field, so it's decent as well. Also keep in mind, when IP Masquerena summons a monster, that monster cannot be destroyed by card effects, so these monsters here become really, really durable, and they can be very hard for your opponent to get rid of. Especially Zero Boros. He can be really annoying to get rid of because he gets an extra attack for every banished card. So, that's Gravekeeper Link for you. I'm going to tell you what the deck is and then show you some gameplay. We have Double Veiler, level 1 spellcaster also. This might be, if there were more tuners in this deck, this might be a good card to run with, say, Christian Haki Firebacks if you want to. 3 copies of Souls, double Ash, 3 Ogre. Ogre is really good now, by the way, guys. Ogre is very, very good. especially because so many people like to play like cards like decks like Dark Magician, where they have lots of face-up, continuous trap cards or continuous spell cards. Ogre works really good in a format like this, or even if there's a monster on the field and then it activates this effect, Ogre can pop it and get rid of it, and you want to be able to destroy cards as well. Goodbye, Spiritualist. And then for our Gravekeepers, we have 1 Headman, 3 Recruiter, 1 Spy, 3 Commandant, and 1 Shaman. Maybe even double Spy, who knows. And then for our spells, we have 3 Veil, 1 Foolish Burial, 3 Instant Fusion, 3 Restage, 1 Monster Reborn, 3 Necrovalley, 3 Necrovalley Throne, 1 Infinite Impermanence, and then extra deck is MER, TER, Winda, Spirit Supernaturalist can go, Link Karibo, IP Masquerena, Cerberus, Double Phoenix, Averted Anaconda, Unicorn, Selene, Bomber Dragon, Zero Boros, and Abomination. I guess I need to think about what I could put in here instead of these cards here. I think a good card that you can maybe run, just because your monsters aren't always so strong, and you might not always go into a Link 4. Another card that you could play in here could be like Cross Sheep, but I don't think Cross Sheep is really good in this deck here. But another card that you could potentially run could be a card like Underclock Taker. How this card works is you need to have a monster that this card points to, so down, excuse me, or maybe left in some situations, and then you choose a card that your opponent controls, a monster your opponent controls, a monster that you control that this card points to, and the monster that your opponent has that you chose will lose attack equal to the one that on your field that you chose. So it's a way to get over really big monsters. So let's put Underclock Taker in and you can give that a show. Or even better actually, Witch Apprentice. This is a lot better actually. 2 dark monsters, Spellcaster Link monster, gives all your monsters 500 attack, weakens light monsters, and if it's destroyed by battle card effect, you get to add a dark monster from your graveyard. Obviously it gets negated by Necrovalley, but you know, it's up to you. It's up to you either way. Let's do Double Spy. I like Double Spy. I think Double Spy is a nice idea. This could be like a good defensive option, or you know, there's a lot of things you could do. So let me show you some gameplay and what this deck can do in action and what it's really like. Not a long video this time, kind of a shorter one, which is good. Make it easier for you guys to watch. But here we go. We've got to play the legendary Buffalo Space Pro. I featured this guy so many times on my channel. I love playing against him. He always comes up with some creative decks, so I wonder what he's got here today. So we're going to start off our turn here by playing Magician's Souls, send Shaman to the graveyard, so she is there, and then we get our free extender through Magician's Souls, so that hits the field. And we do have Gravekeepers Recruiter in our hand, and we have Gravekeepers Commandant, so we're going to normal summon Recruiter, and then we're going to use these 2 monsters to do a link summon. Now this isn't like a crazy combo deck, there isn't a whole lot you're going to be really making here. We're going to send these 2 to the graveyard, and then we're going to make IP Masquerena, and IP Masquerena is going to hit the field, and then Gravekeeper's Recruiter is going to trigger its effect. So we're going to be able to search out and add 1 Gravekeeper monster from our deck to our hand, and we're going to go with, it's always hard to decide sometimes because you're kind of setting up for the next turn. Headman can be really good to set up for the next turn, but you need a level 4 in the graveyard, and Commandant, because it can discard itself, can be a really easy target for Headman, so that's always good. And but then also you could go for Recruiter again, because Recruiter can search itself, so that's kind of also pretty good too. We're going to then activate Magician's Restage, use the effect, and that's going to get us a level 3 or lower Spellcaster from our graveyard. And either of these are good here, but because we can use Magician's Souls effect now, rather than wait for Recruiter, I'm going to go for Souls. So Souls is going to activate, and then we're going to get rid of 1 Necrovalley and 1 Restage. And if you've ever played the Gravekeepers before, the idea of getting rid of Necrovalley might seem blasphemous to you. It feels blasphemous to me, but to be frank, I said this yesterday in my video, Necrovalley isn't as powerful as it once was. There are way too many decks that can just deal with it easily. So we've got 1 copy, that's all we need. We don't need to save copies of Necrovalley and hold them in our hand like we used to in this game. So now we drew into Ghost Ogre, which is nice as interaction, and then we also drew into Gravekeepers Recruiter. So with IP Masquerade on the field, we have the potential to go into a Link 3 or a Link 4. And then we have Necrovalley looking at the graveyard. And then we have Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Not the most crazy board, I know. It isn't, but that's not what this deck is. This isn't a combo deck. It's just another way of playing Gravekeepers. And hopefully you'll see that this way can actually work. So our opponent here, he draws a card. And let's see what he's going to do here. Locking off the graveyard can be such a good auto win condition against so many people. And having other forms of interaction to deal with them is also really good. I think I mentioned this yesterday, but I love playing Necrovalley in decks like Pendulum, where you set up a whole board of monster negates, but then you put a card like Necrovalley on the board, and then they're thinking, oh yeah, I can do Raw Spear mode, or I can just use Lightning Storm, or I can do Dark Ruler no more for you. But then they realize, oh no, I've got a spell card to deal with then as well, rather than just monster negates. And so playing a card like Necrovalley in a deck like Pendulums can be really, really good. We play, my opponent plays Reasoning. Anytime you see someone use Reasoning and you don't know what they're playing, go for level 4. It's the most common number of monsters in the game, so level 4 is always the safest bet. And so we're going to see what my opponent has. He's going to keep on sending cards from the top of his deck to the graveyard until he gets a monster he can normal summon, and then he will special summon it. And luckily us, we got a level 4, being one of the cubic monsters. Cubics are always interesting to me. I've never ever played a cubic deck myself. I honestly don't know what they do. I know they got some crazy win conditions, and some of their monsters are really, really big. And like I said, Buffalo Space Bro always is experimenting, trying new things. I always like playing against this guy, because I always feel like I see a different deck every time I play him. He activates Cubic Dharma. This is a card that lets him send one cubic card from his hand to the graveyard to draw one. And then there's a banish effect as well, but we don't need to do that. Now, I could use Ghost Ogre against this, but it's not really that much of a threat. And so my opponent's just drawing one card, so it's basically an upstart goblin, so there's no real reason to negate that. I'd rather say Ghost Ogre for something else, and he doesn't know I have Ghost Ogre. Now, my opponent did go to the end phase, and I didn't realize it there. I could have done a summon. I probably would have gone for like Nightmare Unicorn at the end of the main phase, and then after doing Nightmare Unicorn, I would have gotten rid of that face down card and shuffled it back in. But that's fine. We could just do it this turn as well. So we're gonna get rid of we're gonna do our 2 bottom level 2s, 2 bottom level 2s. Sorry, I'm thinking Link 2. We're gonna do a Link 2 summon using the 2 monsters that we have on the field. We're gonna summon out Nightmare Phoenix. Of course, we sent Recruiter, so Recruiter will trigger as well, and Nightmare Phoenix. And I actually wanted to send Ghost Ogre here. I didn't actually want to send Recruiter and Headman, because I want to summon Headman, but that's okay, that's fine, because we're gonna do another search. I still have Spiritualist in this deck here, which is a shame. But then I'm going to go and search out Recruiter. Recruiter gets added to the hand. And like I said, you can keep on searching him out again and again and again using his own effect. And so we're going to normal summon into the field. And then we've got 4 monsters on the field. There's no point of overextending right now, because we've got IP Masquerena that can do that during our opponent's turn. So we're just going to attack and do some damage to our opponent. So Phoenix will do 1900. Recruiter will do 17. And then IP Masquerena will do 800 damage. I really like this deck. I really prefer this way of playing it. There's a lot more synergy rather than playing a lot of bricky cards. As I said yesterday in the video, when you play Stun in this format, you really do need a generic cards, because the legacy of the Duelist format is so varied. It's not like going to a regionals and you know what people are going to be playing or what the most popular decks are, and so you can kind of plan accordingly, like say something like Artifact Lancia to stop people banishing cards. But you can't really do that in Link Evolution, because you just never know. You could be playing something like Dark Magician, you could be playing something like Blue Wires, you could be playing something like Invoke, Cubics for example. You never really know. And playing defensive cards can be difficult because there aren't too many generic options here. And so that's the end of the game. I think Necrovalley won us that game, and that's what this deck does in action. So what do you guys think about this way of playing Gravekeepers? Do you think it's better to play as a stun version or a link version? What do you think? Feel free to let me know down in the comments down below. And as always, thank you guys for watching my videos. I'll see you soon. Take care.